What's
Hello.
up, y'all? Welcome to another Sunday morning with Sarah and Mason.
Yes, we
We're
are
we're
doing,
here to talk about reality TV today, right?
yes, on
Sort of.
unpacking Mormonism and other religious trauma.
Oh, yeah, there.
Yeah, that part. Yeah,
So we're,
that part.
we're there, yeah.
I put Mason on the spot right before we started. I was like, you do the intro. I don't think he was prepared.
I took my deep breaths. I'm okay, but yeah, I missed some stuff apparently. I never was good at improv.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
No,
okay.
give me my lines. I'm great. Give
Okay.
me improv and
I'll give you some
not
lines
so
for
much.
next time then.
Sure. I gotta have time to memorize.
Okay. So, as the title of our show says today, we are going to unpack a little bit of the reality television show, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And as my producer said right before the show, isn't reality television kind of redundant? Isn't television supposed to be real? And we all had a good chuckle because reality television is never real. So it's also a lie, it's fake. So I am here to say first off that Mason didn't watch it. And so he's going to be doing some responses to what I'm unpacking out loud as somebody who hasn't seen it. I watched the whole thing, and I'm going to tell you right now, it made me feel icky inside. Like, I did not enjoy this show. It was a fucking train wreck. I was watching the whole thing. So I want to start out.
Everybody in right off the bat.
Right. I want to start out with
everybody out there, stay with us. This is going to get great.
All the Mormons, all the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because once again, this General Conference weekend, they have reiterated the importance of using the full fucking name of the church. But the Mormons,
like that too?
They did not say full fucking name of the church. I bet they'd get a better response if they did, though. Just saying. Okay.
Sure.
So anyway, Mason is squirreling over here. He told me he does not have ADHD, and I disagree.
I just asked.
So anyway, what I want to talk about first off is number one, I agree with members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, aka the Mormons, that this show does not represent them. 100%. These wives on this show do not represent the norm at all, not even a little bit. Having been an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Mormon for 38 years, doing my best to be an Orthodox member, these women are not a representation of who I was, who my friends were. So I want to put that out there because I know that a lot of members of the church are like, this isn't us, this isn't us. And once again, as we said in the beginning, reality television is not real. Number one. I mean, any reality television. I love the Love is Blind theories. I'm going to be honest right now. That is not how you meet people. That is not how you get relationships. They call it a social experiment. And I'm laughing. That's not how we do research, social experiments either. So, number one, reality television is not real. And absolutely, this show does not represent the Mormon women at all. In fact, I would say that their representation of Mormon women is quite disparaging, to be completely honest. They claim that they're kicking back against the patriarchy, and I disagree. They're just being bitches. And I don't necessarily like calling other women that, but it's just that catty middle school, my producer's in the background just dying, okay? Yeah, it's very disparaging to women in that most women don't think like that, don't act like that. And as they kick against the patriarchy, really what they're doing is it's very toxic to themselves. It's very mentally unhealthy, and they're harming themselves and others, and not representing women who are kicking against the patriarchy. Yes, dear.
Just a quick question. One of the things
I'm kicking against the patriarchy.
One of the things that I've observed, and I think is relatively well understood, is that when people will leave a very structured environment, like they talk about it at college all the time, right? Your kids leave a very structured environment. They go to college, they're on their own. Sky's the limit. They go freaking crazy, right? They do all kinds of stuff they wouldn't normally have done. And so I'm wondering, and I'm sure you'll kind of talk about this as we get through, but is there a little bit of that? You've gone through this highly structured, they call themselves Mormon. I don't, they're actors. I have no idea, right? But they call themselves Mormon trying to break away from the patriarchy or some of the stifling things that Mormonism has to offer women. And it almost feels a little bit like, pendulum, right? You're on this side, you swing all the way to the other side, and then you swing back until you finally kind of settle where you want to be.
Right.
And I'm wondering if there's some of that going on there.
There absolutely could be some of that going on for sure. I would say that I felt like the relational dynamics in the show were very middle school, developmental level. Kind of, we're just mean to each other. We're going to gossip, the amount of gossip. Like for me personally, when I look at these women, so the way my understanding, so I could be wrong. Let me just say that right now. My understanding is that these women became friends through mom talk, that they were doing TikToks as moms and dancing on the screen and having a great time. And that as they joined in and as they went viral, they became friends. Great. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Like in real life?
In real life.
Okay. So that's not the premise for the show. It's
no.
Like the
right. In real life, that's how they met each other and became friends, was through these TikTok sensations that they call mom talk, which good for them. They are all, it appears, very wealthy because of the sponsorships that they've gotten on TikTok. So, a great job. Like, yay, that's awesome. But I would not want to be their friend. And the number one reason is because the way they talk about each other with the other friends is exactly how they're going to be talking about me with other friends. And I don't want to have any part of that. So that's one of those, let's unpack that for a minute. If you watch the show and you watch how catty they are towards each other, behind each other's backs, and it's all of them. It's this constant, every friendship, it's just gossip and it's mean. And then they're like, oh, well, Whitney said this about you behind your back. Oh, Macy said this about you behind your back. And it's just like middle school and early high school. Yes, like I said, they're just being bitches. It's not kicking against the patriarchy when you're acting completely foolish and unreasonable, in my honest opinion.
So 2 things. I'm going to try and not, derail you. First thing, for those of you that are watching,
derail me.
We love comments. Please feel free to chime in. It helps us kind of move the conversation in ways that are applicable to you. So please feel free to do that. The other thing is, it almost feels a little bit contrived, the story, in that if the premise is these women are kicking against the patriarchy, but the patriarchy still has all the power, then as they put a show like this out that says we're going to kick against the patriarchy, but the way we're going to do it is to show these middle school girls, these adult women acting like middle schoolers, and then you actually demonstrate, well, the people that kick against the patriarchy are just fools. We don't want to do that. And you actually maintain,
childish, yes.
You actually maintain a lot of your core power, because you can say, let's kick against the patriarchy, but you're all idiots. So why would anybody want to do that? Stay with what works.
Well, and I would be cautious about calling them idiots. I'm going to say mentally ill. There's definitely some very toxic and unhealthy relational patterns. But I completely agree with you. If you're going to kick against the patriarchy out loud, this is not the way to do it. Because as I'm watching that, I do not want to have anything to do with that at all. Like, that is not a friend group. That's not a peer group. That's not somebody that I want representing feminism. I'm just going to say that right now. I don't want that to represent feminism, because it is the ugliest part of humanity on display. Now, having said that, I don't want to get on this show and just disparage them completely. So I do have some things I like. I have 2 little sticky notes here of notes for today, and I want to get through them. So if you've watched the show, these names are going to sound familiar. I probably should have gotten like face clips, like here's a picture of them, and I did not. So oops, sorry, I came ill prepared a little bit. Well, I came somewhat prepared because I have notes. That's good. Not talking off the cuff here. So episode 1 is called The Book of Taylor. So they kind of mimicked it off the Book of Mormon, the Book of Nephi, the Book of Lehi, anyway, which was kind of funny to me. Taylor, in episode 1, it's disclosed she's the one that blew up the swinging scandal within the TikTok group, claiming that everybody was sleeping with everybody else's husbands and wives, that it was this huge swinging group, right? But then as the show moves on, it demonstrates most of the women in this show were not a part of the swinging scandal, and they were very upset with Taylor for saying something like that when it did not represent them. So they have in this show everything from very Orthodox Mormon to very what we would have called growing up Jack Mormon, very varying ranges of them. Yes, here is a picture of the show. And I am too blind without my glasses on to tell you which one's Taylor, but there's the ladies right there. So one of the things that I watched in the first episode is Taylor is toxic. She is significantly mentally ill, but number one, she is hurting. And you can see that she's betrayed her friend group. She is just struggling to be human. She's drinking herself into these toxic oblivions. She's not demonstrating empathy at all. The world is revolving around Taylor. And I want to say right now, my producer is in the process of getting those pictures for us because he rocks. That's episode 1. And at the end of the book of Taylor, she actually, spoiler alert, gets arrested for domestic issues like domestic violence or domestic, whatever the word is. There we go. There she is. There's Taylor. In the show, she gets arrested. And then episode 2 doesn't air until 11 months later. It says 11 months later when you get to episode 2, and Taylor is a completely different person from episode 2 through episode 8 of season 1. And I admire that. I would still say that there's growth there to be done, which sure. I can say that about everybody, myself, you definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Sure. But I was really impressed with it because what I saw was Taylor was not participating in the gossip as much. She had become like she was growing out of the drama. And I think that that's kind of, Mason, if you're like, oh, maybe it's that their pendulum is swinging from one way to the other. And I'm like, oh, it's like watching middle school. I'm hoping that they can all outgrow this. And you can watch them in the show at various stages of growth. But I was really proud of Taylor because it is a complete 180 on the show. And then she's pregnant and she's got some relationship issues with her boyfriend, Dakota, that she's also carrying his baby. And so Taylor, if you're ever watching this, I just want to say I'm really proud of you because I know how much work that shift took. And you did a really good fucking job.
Is that like a hashtag Taylor moment?
Hashtag Taylor moment. Yes, I was really proud of her. And frankly, of all of the girls, I really connected with Taylor because I was toxic and unhealthy, when I was younger. And then I met Jim Fields. So if you read my book right there, Jim helped me change my entire life. And it took me a good 4 years of therapy with Jim before I would say that I was in a really good, healthy mental space. Yeah. I understand the work that goes into that. And I was not in a place of drugs and alcohol the way that Taylor was, but I was in a place of destroying my relationships and lying. The level of dishonesty that I was experiencing in my from 18 to early 20s was, significant. It was harming my life. It was harming the lives of the people around me. And turning that around, it takes a lot of work. And it is so obvious in the show from episode 1 to episode 2 through 8, the work that she did. So I was really proud of her for that. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are really hard on her because of she was the one that blew up and created the scandal. And so there was, oftentimes we learn best through blowing shit up in our lives. I know that's how I learned best, and don't recommend it, y'all. I do not recommend doing it that way, but it works.
The one thing I wrote down here too is that hurting people hurt people.
Yes.
And I think that that's important to recognize, especially if we're trying to understand people, because I think it's also one of the hardest times to do that, especially if you're one of the people getting hurt. It's hard when you're getting hurt by somebody to almost reverse your viewpoint and say, why is she hurting me? Or why is he hurting me? oh, I get it.
Right.
He's hurting. She's hurting.
Right.
And then usually that can calm the situation down quite a bit, because then you're understanding someone rather than just getting hurt.
Right. There's this word called empathy that works really well. And I think that's what Mason's talking about here is some empathy.
Man, what is that? I've never heard of that before.
And to just kind of kick off of that, I would say that the biggest trigger for me watching this show didn't have anything to do with Mormonism at all. It had to do with Taylor's mom, Leanne. Oh my gosh, don't like that woman. And the reason is because towards Taylor and Dakota and every interaction you see her in on the show, she has a complete lack of empathy, understanding. There's no grace there. She's supposed to be a very orthodox Mormon woman. And unfortunately, I've seen that represented in Mormonism a lot. Like Taylor's mom, sorry, Mormons, but I see that a lot where, you lack empathy in the name of Jesus Christ because your kid isn't following the rules. Yeah. And that was disgusting. So I mean, honestly, Taylor, boundary yourself with mama if you're watching this, because I was mad at mama. I was like, what in the fuck are you saying? I would never say that to my kids, even if I disagreed with their lifestyle or the choices they were making. A complete lack of empathy in the name of Jesus Christ. And I see that in high demand, Orthodox Christian religions everywhere. That is not exclusive to that is not exclusive to Mormonism. Go ahead, Mason.
As having been a rule follower my whole life and a checkbox checker, especially in Mormonism, and that's, well, maybe I shouldn't say especially in Mormonism, that's really my only...
Right, that's your only experience. So something you experience.
In high demand religions, there's this blame shifting thing where if something goes wrong, whose fault is it? And of course, it's mine.
If I'm living righteously, it can't be my fault.
So, right. And so as a parent, well, that's actually not what I meant. More of, if something is going wrong in my life, it can't be the church. It can't be the people around me. It's my fault.
Right.
And the point I was trying to get to is that in the case of Taylor's mom, you see this a lot in a high demand religion where, well, she didn't check the boxes. She's not doing what she's supposed to be doing. So this is all her fault.
Right. I'm allowed to shame you because you're not doing it the way I told you to do.
Right. Exactly. And to add to that,
or the way that God told you to do.
Right. And to add to that, your salvation is at stake too. So I'm going to do whatever I can do, but I can't empathize. I can't sit with you and hold your hand and hold your shoulder and let you cry on my shoulder, because then it's going to be perceived as if I'm saying,
supporting you.
This is okay.
Right.
It's okay that you did this, when that's not what we're doing. What we're saying is, I love you. The fact that you did this, sure, this is some hard stuff. You're going to have to work through this. It doesn't change the way I feel about you. And I'm going to sit right here in the mud with you because that's what you need. Well, Mormonism doesn't teach that as a whole.
Well, and the funny thing is that is what Jesus did in the Bible. Like he was like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with the hookers and the lepers and the leopards.
The leopards.
Those with leprosy. Right. I'm going to go hang out with the people that are considered sinners and just be with them and love them, which was this amazing thing. But no, Leanne, Taylor's mom, was super triggering for me because she was getting after her for the swinging scandal. She's getting after her for being on TikTok at all. She's getting after her for being pregnant and not married.
You're doing that I don't like.
All of the check boxes that Taylor did not check, according to Mormon church, she's getting dumped on, and it seems pretty constant. Now, having said that, my producer has reminded me, reality television is meant to trigger you. If you're not being triggered, if you're not getting activated, if your amygdala and emotions aren't getting involved, then you're not going to buy anything. And that's why healthy people on television don't make money.
Right.
Because there's nothing going on there that really get at your nerves. That's also one of the reasons why we really like trash television, because our brains are supposed to go back and forth between survival and non-survival. And so watching a television show that's triggering can be a really safe way to kind of get that activation and then calm down later. And so, yeah, the show is meant to be triggering. And so I want to make sure, that we look at how much of what we're seeing on this television show is just the videography and the way that the producers are setting things up in order to make it look the way that it looks. I mean, I could be talking about Taylor and be 100% off base here, or the mom and be 100% off base here. I wouldn't know because I don't know them. And that's what reality television does. It takes, you know, the worst moments and all the chaos, and it's like, this is the norm. And it's just not.
It might not be fully scripted, but you can bet it's somewhat scripted.
Yeah, well,
let's run with that kind of a thing.
Right. The other thing that I saw a lot for Taylor, and I'm going to talk most about Taylor, which is kind of funny because so did the show. Like, it was like, here's Taylor.
She's the protagonist.
Yeah, I kind of felt like she was the protagonist, and then Whitney was the antagonist, which I'll get to her next. With the boyfriend, like, Taylor's like, I'm not ready to commit to my boyfriend. I'm having his baby. We're cohabitating. We're going to raise the baby together. Good job on that, right? Baby can have mom and dad. They did split up in the end. Again, spoiler alert, by the way. They did split up in the end, but I don't think they broke up. I don't know that's like season 2 shit that we're getting into here. But Taylor was really struggling. People kept saying, you know, because Dakota's pressuring her to get married. That's the boyfriend's name. It's pressuring her to get married. She's not ready to. It's a constant battle. And Taylor, you had really good reasons for not wanting to get married. If it's still causing so many problems, just get curious about your apprehensions. Curious in a way that brings you to different conclusions than you already have. Because I recognize that she's listening, or she's listing the same conclusions over and over and over and over again. When you get caught in that broken record space of, this is why I'm not doing it, and I can't seem to get to anything else, I'm kind of stuck in the broken record loop. You need to start asking yourself different questions. And I don't have any of those questions to give you. I don't know her well enough or anything, but just for our listeners in general, it's really normal to get caught in that kind of a loop. And so as you get caught in those loops, get curious and ask yourself different questions that begin with the word what and how. We actually talked about this, or I talked about this. I think the episode will drop this coming Thursday on asking yourself what and how questions instead of why questions, in order to get that curiosity, like, what's so threatening? You know, why am I worried? Or, ooh, there's a why question. Shit. How does my parents' opinion, there we go. How does my parents' opinion, or how does so-and-so's opinion influence my decision to get married or stay? You know, those types of things. But your apprehensions are very healthy, and you're not doing anything wrong in the world and opinion of Sarah. Not that matters, but. And
for people like me, sometimes, like, I have a really hard time with the whole introspection thing. You know, I'm getting better at it, but sometimes it can be very helpful to bring somebody else in, a trusted person in your life that you might be able to ask those questions and bounce them off. And they might be able to help you as well. But really, like you said, getting curious about the situation and trying to examine it from a different place.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. All right. Passing Mason a love note in the middle of the show. Okay. The second person that I want to talk about is Whitney. Whitney rubbed me the wrong way the whole show. She's purported to be like the most healthy. She's trying to set boundaries within the friend group. She's trying to leave the friend group because they're all toxic. And that's not Whitney. Whitney's the one, Alex, with the short hair, short blonde hair. Yeah, that was not Whitney, but good job. So good laughs here. I don't think my producer has seen the show either, which is probably wise. But Whitney was making good choices about wanting to set boundaries within her friend group. Yes, that one's Whitney. There we go. There's Whitney. Doing a good job of setting boundaries within her friend group, but going about it in a super flawed, toxic, nasty, horrible way. Like showing up to parties uninvited to bring gifts and make things awkward. Again, I'm wondering how much of that was set up by the producers and the videography, because like, duh. I mean, that again, middle school stuff. So I'm going to show up to something I'm not invited to and make it awkward for people, but I'm going to be completely absent from the things I am invited to give a statement and just expect people to read my mind. The way that they set her up, she seemed a little bit narcissistic, but I don't think that she actually is in real life. But definitely the show is full of individuals with personality disorders, and definitely cluster B personality.
And you can only make assessments off of what you're seeing, right?
I only made assessments off what I'm seeing. I'm not diagnosing anybody.
Right. When they go home, or when the cameras turn off, you have no idea. You can only go
Right.
by what you're seeing.
So when you're trying to find like Whitney, what I kind of got from Whitney is that she really recognized that the friend group was not healthy for her, which I get that, and I agree with that for certain. It was not a healthy group of women, and they probably need some separation and a lot of therapy, and maybe even some group therapy. No, I'm serious, like friendship group therapy to get to a place where they're all more healthy. So I could see that grab for, I need to be healthier. I need to change my environment and get to a place where things are more healthy. We really got to work on boundaries here, Whitney. Your boundaries are punitive, at least the way that they were in the show. And your mind reading, you're not clairvoyant. Okay. So, and this is for all of them, actually, all of the girls. They're like, well, she should just know. Well, they should have just thought, or they should have just said. And I'm like, okay, nobody reads brains here, y'all. But you really need to practice what's called the gentle startup, starting with your feelings. But it's not safe to do that in a group of girls that are acting like middle schoolers. So definitely some therapy there. I think that her intent to get away and exit kind of that negative toxic group dynamic was very healthy. But use your brain, go where you're invited, don't go where you're not invited. And all of this unfriending and refriending on social media and just expecting people to know, like unfriending people and being like, and nobody called me. Dumb, just dumb. Go to therapy, talk it out, work on your boundaries. Boundaries are meant to be self-protective, not punitive to the people around you. If you're using a boundary to punish somebody else, you're doing it wrong. So let's just say that. Also, Whitney, I'm totally down with you in the hobby farm idea. Like, check out the Neuro-Connected Wellness Farm. We are working on getting that website put up. Farming is a blast. I love the hobby farming stuff. So I get wanting to change that environment and going the 180. I think that's pretty normal. The one thing I will say about Whitney, though, my favorite character in the whole show is actually Whitney's parents. Whitney's mom was the epitome of empathy, kind of the, I wouldn't do that, but if that's what you want to do, I support you. And the, yes, that was a horrible scandal, but I've got your back all the way. So when it comes to parents, Taylor's parents versus Whitney's parents, complete opposite. And I did not find Whitney's mom's name. And I only saw, no, Taylor, I saw her dad too. And I felt the same way about dad. Dad was just as lack of empathy as anybody else. I don't think we met Whitney's father in this, but her mother was exactly what I would want to be as a mom, at least the way that she portrayed in the things I'm talking about right now. When you have, okay. Sorry, I was reading a note from my derail squirrel, reading a note from the producer there. But Whitney's mom was really good at empathy, which I also think is part of the reason why Whitney had the support group to exit the toxic friendship relationship. All right, Alex, you said something when you have a sec, the story on IMDb for the show is kind of funny. Go ahead, let's bring that up. This is actually a great time to do that before I jump in and do the rapid fire of the other people. Okay, here's the story. You're gonna have to make that full screen, Alex, because I can't see anything.
I'm not sure I can see it there either. Can we make this full?
Oh yeah, he's getting it. Dum 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 da dum da dum da dum. I can't do all of their thing. So while we're waiting for Alex to pull that up, I would love to hear some comments here. Oh, here we go. Reality
show about swingers who happen to be Mormon wives.
All right. So the IBDM says
not Mormon wives who happen to be swingers, by the way.
Right, not Mormon wives who happen to be swingers who happen to be Mormon wives rather than Mormon wives who happen to be swingers. The funny thing is that the only one that actually admitted to being a swinger was Taylor. The rest of them really weren't. So that should say one Mormon wife who's a swinger and her group of toxic friends. But I don't think that would have sold.
That's just called polygamy.
All righty. All right. I'm not going to talk about every character on the show, mostly because some of them were just kind of in the background anyway. I'm going to talk about Jesse next. So there's a scene where they're at, I think, a baby blessing or or something at Jen's house. Jen and her husband are more Orthodox. Jen's in-laws are super duper Orthodox. This, by the way, is Jen Affleck, and she is a cousin or second cousin or something to the Ben Affleck, the one that's hot and steamy. Whoo! Hey, I like Ben Affleck. He's a cutie patootie. So there is a relationship there, but her family, is that one Jen? I don't know. It doesn't look like her, but honestly, they're a bunch of very skinny, thin girls with really long blonde hair. I don't know if that's her. Yeah, they're all white. No, one of them is not. So anyway, that might have been Jesse, not Jen. That is Jesse. Yes, that's Jesse, not Jen. So Jen's family is super Orthodox, and Jesse on purpose and makes a point. That one's Whitney. Yeah, I think your pictures here are goofed up there, Alex.
That's okay.
All right, so back to the point. So Jesse, it brings alcohol into the home of Orthodox Mormons, into their hot tub on purpose, and drinks it in front of people to make a statement. Not cool, Jesse. And my guess is, yes, Alex, I did say Jesse. We're talking about Jesse. So there we go. That's Jen. Yes, that's Jen. Jen Affleck there. Jen and her husband, and he's like white blonde snowman hair. Like he reminds me of, I can't tell you on the show. It's not fair. There we go. There's the husband. I don't remember his name, and that's okay. They are super Orthodox Mormon. And so Jesse, the other hottie that Alex got up, brings this alcohol and purposefully drinks it in her in-laws or their house's tub. Not cool. Okay, that's super
going to hell for sure.
Like borderline. It's not about the alcohol, and that's what they made it about. But it's not about alcohol. It's about the disrespect of boundaries in their home. So this unpacking moment is my house, my rules. Your house, your rules. If I go into your house, I agree to follow your rules.
Right.
And if I don't like your rules and I don't plan on following your rules in your own home, then I'm not coming over. And there's a way to say, hey, I'm not comfortable going into your home for whatever reason, and do it respectfully. Like, hey, I feel really uncomfortable in your home. This is who I am. And I have a really hard time keeping these, honoring these standards in your home. And so I'm just going to exit and not do that.
Sounds like that would be a really healthy conversation. There's no place for that in reality TV.
Right. There's no place in reality television for healthy conversation. Thank you, Mason. My brain just went blank. But one of the things that really bothered me about Jesse, and also about Demi, I think they called her Demi, not Demi. And about Demi, is that they purposefully went out of their way to dishonor their friends' standards.
Right.
And that's just icky for me. That's very, and then they were upset about it. Like, well, how dare you be upset that I'm really people? That's kind of narcissistic. I'm not saying you have narcissistic personality, not at all, but that's a low blow. And again, like I said, middle school friendships, not cool. I agree with you, Courtney. Exactly. Not cool. If I'm going to your house, Courtney, if you've got rules that I don't necessarily follow in my own home, fine, but I'm going to follow the rules in your home.
Sure.
And when you come to my house, I expect that same courtesy. Like if you come into my home and you're upset because I'm drinking wine before dinner, problem. But if I'm coming to your home, which is an alcohol-free space, and I'm like, well, fuck you, and I'm going to drink out of my little, what is that called? Like the little curd bottle. Why can't I remember what it's called all of a sudden? Mason, help me. Like the little canteen.
Flask, yeah.
Flask. There it is, the little flask. And I'm going to drink that, and it is full of alcohol. It's just not cool. Now, having said that, I've done that before. Mason's mom told me that drinking coffee in her home chased away the spirit of God. So I told her my coffee was hot chocolate. So I've done it, and I lied about it. So this is me being a hypocrite, honestly.
And that it does speak to the fact that sometimes what people are asking of you seems ridiculous. And maybe it is ridiculous. It certainly can seem ridiculous. But still, if you're wanting to be around someone, then you show them the respect that they're asking for.
Right.
And of course, with family, sometimes it can be difficult because you're
This
trying
wasn't
to
family.
find,
This was friends.
right. But in this, you're talking about my mom, you know,
Oh.
with family, sometimes it can be a little difficult because you're trying to still keep these relationships when maybe ordinarily you wouldn't if they weren't family members, kind of a thing.
Right,
So,
exactly.
but yeah, so.
And then that moves us into the Demi thing, and this is the same thing. I would say, hey, Courtney, I'm going to show your comment real quick. Alex, can you pull up Courtney's comment? Go ahead, Mason, if you can read that.
I think too many.
I think too many are all
about me attitude that people have lost respect for others. I was completely shocked when the girls did that. I watched the whole season and was astonished by some of their actions.
Right. And Courtney, so I'm going to ask you a direct comment here. Do you feel like the show was a representation of Mormon women? Since you've watched the whole thing, and I know Courtney, she and I are buddies. Do you feel like the show represented the Mormon women that you know? I did not. And this is actually one of the reasons why
leading the witness.
I'm leading the witness. I don't care. Courtney, I love you. We'll go ride horses together someday here soon. But let me know what you think if you can type that into the comments. Because I know that my friend group, when I was an Orthodox Mormon, my friend group would not have done that to me. And frankly, if they had, I probably wouldn't be their friend. So that brings me to Demi, or Demi, I believe they pronounced her name as Demi, who they went on a girls' weekend together. And then they did a truth box, which I don't remember who brought up the truth box thing, but that was a shit idea. You don't do a truth box. You don't do a truth box to like put your friends on the spot in a vulnerable place. That's not vulnerability. Okay. Courtney says absolutely not. I mean, there are some that believe things need to change, but the show was not the way to try to do so. I agree. Absolutely, 100%, especially the kicking against patriarchy, since they kept saying that's our goal is kick against patriarchy. I was like, you're like a 3-year-old throwing a tantrum trying to change your mom's mind about having to go to bed. That's the wrong way to do it. The more you kick and scream, the more I'm going to put you to bed. Okay, that's kind of my analogy there. So what they did, and I'll pause here for a sec on Demi and talk about this truth box. I don't remember who brought the truth box up, but they all had to write truths about each other, put them in the box, and then they read them out loud in the group. This has to be videography, y'all, because holy shit, what a shit show. How dare you take putting people on the spot about their own vulnerability is not healthy. Hi, John. Love you. John's with us today, too. Great to see you guys. They are Army family from Fort Hood, Texas. So when you're Army family, you're real family. So love you guys. So anyway, Mason, what are your thoughts? Since you said you saw that section where they're like pulling the little strips of paper out and reading the truths out loud to each other. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that it has the potential to be healthy in that you're just kind of calling up and giving each other opportunities to talk about some of the things that they're wanting to talk about. It felt punitive. It felt more like, I don't even know the names, but it says like Demi puts in something about Jen so that we can talk about what Demi knows about Jen. That's not asking someone to be vulnerable. That's forcing them to be vulnerable. So if you're going to do a vulnerability box, from my standpoint, it would feel like I'm going to put in something about me that I'm okay talking about with my friend group.
Ooh, I'm not
going to put something in about John because that's going to be spicy. And so reality TV, right? We want spicy. We want like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just did that. We want those kind of passions. But if it were something where as a friend group, we wanted to be able to discuss things that maybe wouldn't come up. Like the Gottman love notes thing, right? Where you bring up questions that you can ask each other.
It's called the Gottman card deck. That's what Mason's talking about. And you can download it on your phone, open-ended questions. Great. Keep going.
Right. So if that's something you want, then let's do something that I'm choosing to be vulnerable about, not something you're forcing me to be vulnerable about.
Right. And I want you guys to, our daughter just called and she's babysitting. Is Lightning alive?
I don't know.
Oh, great. So we've got a kitten, and our dog just attacked our kitten. So Mason's probably gone for the rest of the show while he goes and does doctoring up. So for those of you who are watching the show, I would love to have your comments on the screen about if you've seen the show, do you feel like it hurt the Mormon population or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints population, or did it harm it? Also, I would say, do you feel like it helped or harmed in any way? And share those opinions with us. The thing I want to talk about next is Demi or Demi. Why do I keep, it's because I keep thinking of Demi Moore, not Demi Moore, Demi from the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Demi on this girls' night decides that she's going to surprise the girls. She's not telling them where they're going for dinner or what the activity is going to be. And she takes them in Vegas to see Chippendales, which is a male strip club. It's very risque. It's very sexually explicit. And it's definitely an adult show. But that's not the kind of surprise you do when you know that a good portion of your friend group isn't into that stuff and is practicing Orthodox Mormon. Hey, bitch, not cool, because you put your friends in a very, again, on the spot, vulnerable position. They did group pictures. Those pictures went up on social media. You are forcing your friends to be represented in a way they don't want to be represented. It's just not okay. Now, having said that, Demi, I would totally go to Chippendales with you. And I agree. Alex just posted on Unpacking with Sarah's Facebook page that is low-key sexual assault. I agree with that statement. It's not okay. I would be happy to go to that show with you, but also tell me that's where we're going. So that way I can communicate with my spouse. Okay. If my spouse and I have a boundary of, hey, I don't mind if you go and do this, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about what the boundaries are. Let's like, that's healthy relationship setting. So this is not an appropriate surprise, especially when half your friend group is Orthodox Mormon. And then you're all pissed off about it when they're upset with you about it. Are you stupid? And again, my question is, how much of this was set up by the reality television producers to really put these individuals in a toxic way, or put these people in a toxic environment and position for television? This is why reality television is so icky oftentimes. Jen, let's pull up a picture of Jen when you're ready, Alex. Oh, you're back. Is the kitty alive?
Kitty's still alive.
Kitty is alive. Yay.
We'll see if that lasts, but he doesn't look like there's any problems. So
Okay. Well, the nice thing about kittens and puppies is they're just like human babies. They're made of rubber. Yeah, you totally missed it. So no comment from you, and I'll explain later, because you'll be like, wait, what? And it'll derail us, and then the squirrel will have to come onto the screen, and blah, 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 blah. All right. So here's a picture of Jen. Jen is probably, of all of the girls on the show, the most Orthodox Mormon. Jen, your spouse is not a healthy person. I'm going to tell you that right now. I watched him and I was like, oh my gosh, girl. So I'll go back to the story of Demi. So Demi takes them to the strip club as a surprise. Jen is super uncomfortable there, but her husband is pissed at her. Jen leaves. Like, she literally exits and leaves. She calls a cab she leaves with a couple other girls. I can't remember if Whitney was there. I don't think Whitney was there, but she leaves with a couple of the other girls. I don't remember all the names here, guys. I'm terrible with names. Who don't want to be there for the strip club. So they went behind the scenes. They met the guys. They oiled their skin, blah, 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 blah. Like Alex said, low-key sexual assault here. Jen leaves with a couple of the other girls. And the first thing she does is she gets out of there and she calls her husband, which is fucking healthy for a relationship. Good job, Jen. You were like, hey, I was put in a position I didn't want. I have left. This is where I'm going. And I want you to know that this happened. I didn't choose it. It was meant as a surprise. Husband gives her, like, he throws a big old freaking tantrum. And then he like won't speak to her. He gives her the silent treatment, and then she rushes to his hotel room where she gets verbally battered and shamed for having chosen to go. That is narcissism at its finest, girl. He's not really on the show. Like, this wasn't shown on the show. She talks about it later. If that's who he actually is, get out. I agree with your friend group. He's not healthy. He is using you. Run. And I know that's really hard to do, but lean into healthy people, healthy supports around you, because your husband is scary and it's only going to get worse. The level of control he is trying to have over you is not okay. And I don't think that was a reality television thing. I think that's who he truly is. And he's the only one that I'm like, whoa, that's who he truly is. Like, for sure, not set up. Because why would anybody want to be portrayed as that type of an asshole? So,
well,
good luck, Jen.
If you're trying to support quote unquote Mormonism, there's a space for that, unfortunately, that it doesn't matter that you chose to walk away. All we can see is the fact that you were there.
Well, and I would say,
and it's unfortunate because, of course, the choosing to leave is way more important than the fact that you went there unbeknownst to yourself, especially.
Right.
Or that you stayed for a few minutes and then left. Like, those things aren't nearly as important as the fact that you said, I'm not happy here, I'm leaving. And you let your spouse know right away. Like you said, that's incredibly healthy.
Well, and Michael agrees with you. The way that Jen handled the situation is exactly what one would hope for in a partner or a relationship. Right. That's the epitome of trust.
And what that
really is. Like, she could have just not told him and made some shit up. Oh, we went to, circus and we played the kiddie slot machines all night and had a great time. No, it was a big deal to her.
I mean that if she decided not to tell him, it's not like she chose to be there. It's not like she made this huge mistake.
She was honest.
It could have been a nothing.
Right. She was honest and got pummeled for being honest. And I get he may have felt betrayed, but there were other things throughout the show that were just red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag.
His response does not encourage her to be honest in the future.
Right.
If you're gonna rail on me about something I didn't even choose to do, like, instead of focusing on the fact that I was there, focus on the fact that when I realized where I was, I left, and reward that part. Oh, you're telling me, okay, great. Like, you can still be upset, you can still be mad, but recognize the situation for what it is and reward the honesty, because the honesty is the big piece there. Even if she had chosen to go there, she's like, hey, I went. I thought it would be fun. I got there. It was really uncomfortable. I left. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry. I just wanted you to know. Reward the honesty. Don't
reward it. It's not like, it's like, oh, good job, you were honest. Here's your cookie. Here's your treat. Not like that.
That's not the kind of reward.
Right. I'm talking about express gratitude.
But I want my cookie later.
Go get one. There's a whole bunch of ginger snaps in the house. No, I would say that you derailed me. It's all your fault. What I want to say is that within Mormonism, I would say Jen's husband represents a lot of Mormon men. Cult-like organizations breed personality disorder. And I know I've gotten in trouble for saying that before. But it's true. It rewards, or it breeds personality disorder because you have an unhealthy amount of control or lack thereof over another person or over yourself. And one of the things that another red flag of Jen's husband, whose name I can't remember, which I'm okay with. I don't mind that I don't know his name because that's how important he was to me. Not at all. But the other thing that he did is he was going to school at BYU to become a doctor. And without talking to Jen, got accepted into medical school and was going to move them to, I believe it was Washington, D.C. and take her away from everything, and didn't. It like he accepted. It wasn't like, hey, I got this offer, let's go. Like, the only time, in my opinion, where it's okay to be like, hey, this is where we're moving, is when you're in the military. And like, I knew I was in the military. I knew I was married to a soldier, and I knew that orders were going to tell me where I was going to go. And if I wanted to be with you, I just had to follow.
Right. But you knew
which
that.
I did.
Both I chose it. Knew that when we got in.
I chose that. Whereas his, like, I don't want you to be around your friends and I'm going to go here. There was no, hey, This is the college. This is where I really want to do my medical school. How do you feel about it? It wasn't. She just came out and she was like, yeah, he accepted, and I guess we're moving. And that is a totally Mormon man thing to do. Not all Mormon men, but enough of them that I'm like,
It's a patriarchal thing to do, right?
yes, it's I'm the head of the house, right? I'm the head of the house.
This is what I think.
This is where I prayed and felt like it was the best. If I want my way, okay, guys, y'all, here we go. This is truth telling right now. If I wanted my way and Mason wasn't listening, all I had to do was be like, I prayed about it. And the Spirit told me that this is the best thing for us. And as soon as I would say that, Mason would be like, okay, we're going to trust that Spirit. We're going to go. Like, that's Mormonism. And if you're using it, I only did it once. You're looking at me like, what the hell?
No, I'm not scowling at all.
I felt like it. That's probably just my guilty conscience. I only did it once, and it was to get a different car. Okay. And now I've confessed, so forgive me, damn it.
We'll have to share more details later because I'm still in the dark.
Okay. It was when we bought the minivan and got rid of the Miata, and you weren't quite ready. And I was like, I don't think we're thinking this through. Anyway, we'll do a story for another day. This is not about me. This is about the toxicity of the Mormon wives, okay? I was a Mormon wife. I was toxic, and I used it in a bad way. Done.
The point being that if
I
you're in a
confess
situation,
my sins, I'm forsaking them
if you're in
now.
a situation where your organization gives you the ability to control,
Or they would support that,
and you choose to use that in an unhealthy way, then that's on you. Like, you can say, well, the Spirit told me, or well, I'm the priesthood holder, or well, I'm the head of the house, or whatever the reasons are. Or as a wife, well, I'm not doing anything until you agree to, there's both sides can do it. But if that's what you're using, manipulation isn't going to be a healthy part of a relationship.
right?
Whereas healthy communication is vital.
I would say the two people that really, really stuck out to me as this is not a healthy thing were two Orthodox Mormon individuals, and that was Taylor's mom and dad. So Leanne and whatever her dad's name was, and Jen's husband. Yeah, and those three individuals, I was like, you guys aren't even the primaries on the show at all. You guys are the Orthodox Mormons. Mason is leaving again. Is it kitten emergency again? Okay, kitten emergency. My poor daughter is probably freaking out. So the last person on the show that I really wanted to kind of dig into was Macy. Macy, I felt like, was the most mature. She was probably the most sincere friend. She did the best job of keeping confidences. She also did, in my opinion, the best job of talking to people in private about issues. She did the best job of going to Taylor and expressing a concern. Something had come to her attention about Dakota, and Macy did a really good job of going to Taylor in private and sharing things with her and being like, hey, I don't know if you want to hear this. And whatnot, but this is something I think that you should be aware of, and let's talk about it and let's be supportive. She also had really strong boundaries against some of the unhealthy patterns and behaviors of Taylor's boyfriend, Dakota, where she set some boundaries. She was of the girls on the show, probably the one that I would be the most comfortable being a friend to, because she demonstrated the best mental health boundaries. And relational boundaries. I was really proud of her for doing the best to navigate the situation that she could. There was another lady that was, oh goodness, I would need the list of their names. Y'all, I'm terrible with names. I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all. I knew I wanted to marry Mason before I could remember their names. Oh, here, Alex, can you blow that up? Let me see if I can see it. Okay. Layla. So for Layla, absolutely loved her divorce party. I thought that was the cutest thing ever, to celebrate that she had left a relationship that was not healthy for her. I thought that was great, the way that she was, starting out in life, getting ready to do new things, and being really, really focused on a new beginning. I thought that she did a really good job. She also tended to stay in the background a little bit with all of the toxicity, at least from my memory of the show. That's a great picture of her, Alex, I think. So here's Layla. She was also the only woman of color on the show. And then the last person on the show that I don't really was Michaela. Michaela tended to be there in the background. She did participate in a lot of the things, both healthy and unhealthy, but she really, as far as I remember, was not a major player in the show. And so I will watch season 2 when it comes up. Some of the really good things I would say about the show is that it was so off the wall that anybody who actually thinks that it represents anything other than reality television is probably not really aware of healthy humanity because it was super toxic. I don't think that it harmed the LDS Church in any way. I think what harmed the LDS Church, the Mormon Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I think what harmed them was their fear that this show was going to harm them. That the way that they came out and they were like, don't watch the show, it's evil. And then all of this show doesn't represent us, tells me that the Mormon Church has a guilty conscience of something, because if you watch the show, if anybody watched the show, they're gonna be like, yeah, this is not normal for the Mormon Church. This isn't normal for most of humanity at all. But their fear of how this show was going to harm them was, I think, very telling. And then, yeah, I would never watch it again. I will never go back and watch season 1 again. Oh, I can't say never because now I'm gonna probably when season 2 comes out. You can find the show on Hulu. I mean, unless you are in a mental space where you can really navigate watching something toxic. Like I said, when I watched it, it just made me feel icky inside. I would watch an episode and then I would have to go out and cleanse my soul. And I know that sounds a little voodoo, but I was literally like, nobody talk to me. I've got to get my head straight again because I was so like, and again, that is what reality television tries to do. So unless you're in a really healthy place to watch the show and you're watching it from a space of, I just want to see the train wreck, go for it. If you are the type of person that gets drawn into the show and you're going to absorb that chaos into your life and then act on that chaos, I would definitely say probably not the best way to do that. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. I think the general consensus is that the show did not represent what the women in the show were trying to represent at all. So if you or someone you know is in a mental health crisis, please call or text the National Mental Health Crisis and Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 988. The domestic violence phone number and the child safety phone number, child abuse phone number is scrolling along the bottom of your screen. For those who are listening, it is 800-799-SAFE, 7233, 1-800-787-3224. That is for the domestic violence. And the child abuse hotline is 1-800-4-A-CHILD. You can also leave reports online if you just type into Google child abuse hotline or the domestic violence hotline, those numbers and online forums where you can report that is available online, and it's all anonymous, except for, I think, in the state of Arizona. I think the state of Arizona allows the reporter to be shared, who reported to be shared with the person. Otherwise, in most states, that is anonymous. And please, Arizona, check your state. I will double check that and let you know if I'm wrong. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. And we will see you again in about 2 weeks at Unpacking Mormonism and Other Religious Trauma with Sarah and Mason. And if you'd like to catch our Thursday show, Unpacking with Sarah, we're really excited to announce that we will be dropping an episode every Monday and Thursday moving forward. Unpacking with Sarah is a show where we are bridging the gap between theory, mental health theory, and application. So that way you can learn how to take all this self-help shit and apply it to your daily lives. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.